My name is John Marr from Carmen's Road Safety. I'm at home, so I've put together Carmen's Road Safety webinar. And I'm hoping that through this you will be empowered to be the safest road user you can possibly be. I'm now going to take you on mine and my family's journey, and I want to tell you how dangerous our roads really are and how everyone must be the safest road user you can possibly be. To do that, I go back to Sunday the 4th of April 1993. The place is Axedale, a beautiful little town just outside of Bendigo that sadly is underwater at the moment, and the bridge that we used to cross all the time is underwater, and apparently they're going to have a look at it for construction damage. Back then, I was aged 42, and that's me, the cute little one up there in the corner. Ange was also aged 42, and I can tell you that Ange still looks like she's 42. She's the luckiest woman in the world. We're both in our 70s now, but the reason Ange looks like she's in her 40s is because of the way I've looked after her. She is so fortunate. And we had to have beautiful children. Michelle, our eldest, was aged 20. Katrina, aged 18. Jasmine was 16, and our youngest, Carmen, was aged 15. So it was a beautiful Sunday. Ange was going to Mass in Axedale. I was the captain coach of the Sedgwick Cricket Club, and we'd won a premiership. So I said I wasn't going to church today, Ange. I was going out to make sure everything's working properly out at the barbecues, and I'll see you guys when you get out there. Ange left for church. A half an hour later, I borrowed Michelle's car and I headed off to what I thought would be the barbecues. Little did I know, I was actually going to a car crash. And I went to my car crash in Michelle's car, the bottom one. As I was going into Axedale, I was in the 80-kilometre zone, slowing towards 60. I saw this four-wheel drive coming out of the 60-kilometre zone. It was only doing 60 kilometres an hour. I noticed it lose control. It veered across the road in front of me, and I came to a complete stop on the highway and sat there. I thought it was going into the trees on this side of the road. Instead, it swerved back again. It rolled, it bounced up in the air, and as you can see, it's landed upside down on the roof and bonnet of my car. I was knocked unconscious, and the first time when I came to, I heard someone outside the car saying, "Whoever is in there has got to be dead." I called out to him and I said, "I'm okay in here." And I immediately passed out. The reason he said that was because the roof of Michelle's car was below the door sills, all the way around the car. What saved my life was both front seats broke and laid back into the back seat, and I was squashed by the roof into the driver's seat. I couldn't see anything. The roof was hard down on my face. Everything to me was pitch black, and yet it was midday. I was trapped in the car for an hour and 50 minutes, and I can remember just 3 to 4 minutes of the time that I was in the car, thank heavens. The next time I came to, can you imagine this? Ange is coming home from church. She's the third car on the scene. It's just happened. Ange had been screaming out to me from outside the car for about 10 minutes when I came to for the second time. I heard Ange and I said, "Ange, I'm okay. I've got a broken nose, a broken jaw, a broken foot, but a particular part of my anatomy was still intact." Ange said the two guys had a bit of a laugh about that. She didn't, but she did figure that perhaps I was okay. I passed out again. The next time I came to, an ambulance officer had been able to get in the back door of the car. He had to get on his back and get under the front seats that were laying on the back seat, and he was upside down trying to put a drip in my arm. He woke me up doing that. He was making a bit of a mess apparently. When he realised I was awake, he said, "What's your name? How old are you? Do you know what day it is? Do you know what time it is? And do you know what's happened?" I answered all of those questions and he said, "Mate, I can't believe it, but I think you might be okay." I then said to him, "How are the people in the other car?" He said the young lady is deceased. I passed out again. The next time I came to, I woke up in St John of God's Hospital in Bendigo. I'd been operated on. Ange was sitting beside the bed. I had tubes coming out of me everywhere. There were machines around me everywhere, bipping and carrying on. Ange was sitting beside the bed, and I said to Ange, am I going to make it? Because honestly, I felt so bad, I thought I was going to die. Ange said the doctors are really happy with how you've come through the operation and you're going to be okay. The result of the car crash was that there was one death. I was really seriously injured. And I can tell you that my life, my family's lives and the lives of so many of our friends were changed forever from that day onwards. I was 42 years old. I was the manager of an insurance company. I had 36 people working under me and relying on me for the prosperity of their businesses. I now have 26 plates and screws in my face. That's why I still look like I'm 42. So it does have some small benefits. I have frontal lobe damage, a brain injury that causes really serious short-term memory problems. And that is my worst long-term injury. I battle with that all the time. I have neck and back injuries. And I still go to Shane Maloney in Bendigo every month. And I never miss because I really need him to keep me going. The TAC, the Traffic Accident Commission in Victoria, pay for my physiotherapy. And I will go to physio all my life. And next March, on the 4th of March, it will be 30 years since I had that car crash. And I can tell you that if you had a car crash and you ended up with my injuries, you would never be the same again. Emma Hayward was just 18 years and 24 days. Emma had had a licence for just 23 days when she lost control of her four-wheel drive at 60 kilometres an hour. She rolled up the highway, crashed into my car, and poor Emma was killed instantly. I met Emma's dad 2 days after I got out of hospital. He called out home. It was 6 weeks after I'd had the car accident. The first thing he said to me was, John, I'm really sorry for what's happened to you. He's lost his daughter. And that was the first thing he told me. He also said, I bought my daughter a four-wheel drive to keep her safe. And I've killed my only child. Not only was Emma an only child, she was also an only grandchild. And guys, 8 months later, Emma's parents split up, never to get back together again. And as I'm going to physiotherapy 3 times a week and walking up and down in a hydro pool to try and keep the weight off my neck and my back, I was really quickly learning that a car crash is not just a car crash. A car crash is a game changer. It's a life changer, and far too often it is a life taker. And 3 months after my car crash, all 4 specialists told me within 2 weeks of each other that I would never work again. And I never have done physical work again. What I've done is I've taken Carmen's message to schools all around Australia and internationally. I'm an international keynote speaker on road safety. I've spoken at conferences and seminars. Almost 500,000 students have heard Carmen's message. And now you guys are hearing Carmen's road safety message. But you know, don't you, it'll never happen to you. We do know how dangerous our roads are. And we also know that we only have one life and we have one crack at this. I want to now tell you just how dangerous our roads really are and how anything is possible. On the 18th of November 1995, just 2.5 years after I had my car crash in which poor Emma lost her life, Carmen Our beautiful youngest daughter, at aged 18 years and 3 months, was killed in a car crash. How can that happen to us? How can this happen to Carmen after what's already happened to our family? I'll tell you, and I'll tell you how easily these things can happen, especially on our potentially deadly roads. This is a photo of Carmen. She had just finished year 10, and Michelle, our eldest daughter. I don't have a later photo of the two of them together. We took generally family photos. But I'm going to tell you about that terrible, horrific Saturday morning. And it was a beautiful Saturday morning. Normally Carmen would sleep in until about 11 o'clock. This particular Saturday morning, when Michelle got up to go into work, she was up at 7:30, she went down into the kitchen, and here was Carmen already up. She was fully dressed, sitting at the kitchen table. She had her arms on the table like that, and she had her head in her arms, and she was asleep. And Michelle got a real shock and said, "Carmen, what are you doing up?" Just then Carmen's very best friend, Carmen Trevine, walked into the kitchen. Carmen Trevine was also 18 years and 3 months. But Carmen Trevine hadn't even started to learn to drive yet. Our Carmen had picked Carmen Trevine up at Catholic College after school on Friday. And Carmen Trevine had come out and stayed the night, like she had done hundreds of times before. These two Carmens were the best of best friends. So Carmen had to run Carmen Trevine into McDonald's, where she worked part-time of a weekend. They went out to the car, and Michelle went out to the car with them. Michelle was 23. When they got out to the car, Michelle said, "Carmen, you're tired. Wind the window down, turn the wireless up. You'll be right, mate, I'll catch you later," and she gave her a big thumbs up. I was getting dressed in the bedroom and I heard Carmen toot as she went out our front gate for the 20-minute drive into Bendigo. 20 minutes in, 20 minutes home. Our kids always gave us a toot as they left home. Michelle went back inside and got ready for work. At 8:10, Michelle got in her car. When Michelle got in her car, she thought to herself, "I would have expected Carmen home by now." She drove out the gate, gave us a toot, went down to McIver Highway, where you turn right to go into Bendigo. It's a T intersection. When she looked right, you can see 2 kilometres up the road at least. And there was no traffic coming, and this was a highway. Michelle said her heart nearly stopped. She thought, "Where's Carmen? I should be seeing Carmen." Michelle turned right, started heading in towards Bendigo. As she was driving along, she said her heart was now racing. There was still no traffic coming. She said she felt sick, she felt like vomiting. And then just five short kilometres from home. This is what Michelle found. Thankfully, Carmen had dropped her best friend Carmen off at McDonald's. But can you believe that on the way home, at 100 kilometres an hour, our beautiful little girl could go to sleep at the wheel and hit this tree exactly with the driver's side door. And Carmen was killed instantly. Michelle pulled over. She went running towards the car. Fortunately, the first person on the scene was a police officer who was standing beside the passenger side door. He saw Michelle running towards the car. He ran out, stepped out and grabbed her in front of the car, and he said, "Where do you think you're going, young lady?" Michelle said, "That's my sister in that car and I'm going to take her home." He said, "You can't go there." She said, "That's my sister in there and I'm taking her home." The policeman said, "I'm sorry, but I can't let you go there." Michelle could see the blanket. She could see the condition of the car. She then said to the young policeman, "Is Carmen all right?" This 24-year-old police officer burst into tears. He said, "I'm really sorry, but your sister is dead." Michelle started screaming. She started fighting with the policeman. She actually punched him in the face to try and get away to get to Carmen. Thankfully, he held her tighter. She then pleaded with him. She said, "Please let me go to Carmen. She's in that car on her own. I need to be with Carmen. I need to hold Carmen's hand." He said, "I'm really sorry, but I just can't let you go there." Michelle then said to him, "But you don't understand. It's my fault that Carmen is dead." You see, just 45 minutes earlier, Michelle had said to Carmen, "Carmen, you're tired." No one else blames Michelle for Carmen's death. I certainly don't, because I always drove my car while I was tired. And I can tell you that most people who've had their licences for a long time have definitely driven their car while they're tired. As a family, we knew nothing about fatigue up until this. But now we know everything there is to know about fatigue. And here is, hopefully, one of your greatest lessons. I still get tired while I'm driving. And I tell everybody what I do. The first sign of tiredness is a yawn. And then another yawn. And when I was working, I'd be coming home from Melbourne back to Bendigo, and it would be at about Heathcote that I'd start yawning. But I wouldn't stop. It was only 20 minutes further on to get home. And then I would take those long blinks. They call them micro sleeps. And it's proven that you can travel 100 to 200 metres with your eyes shut, having a micro sleep. And when you're having a micro sleep, there is no guarantee that you will actually wake up from it. You see, it shouldn't be Carmen who paid the price with her life for going to sleep. It should have been me. I should have educated my family about fatigue on the roads. What I do now, and what I urge every one of you to do, is the moment you start feeling tired while driving, pull over immediately. I pull over, I take my phone out of my pocket and I set the alarm for 15 to 30 minutes, whatever I think I need. But the key is I always leave early when I'm going anywhere. I always leave early. I set the alarm, I lay the seat back, and I can go to sleep just like that. And I have what's called a power nap. I know you will have all heard of a power nap, and I will tell you this, a power nap can save your life. When the alarm goes off, I don't just drive off. And here's the key that no one has ever heard of. But I know this is the key for you to get home safely. I then get out of the car and I go for a brisk walk up the highway, at least 100 metres, and I walk back as fast as I can. If I could run, I would. When I get back to the car, I am puffing. My adrenaline's pumping, and there is no way I can go to sleep. I then drive off. Now I'm a safe driver for myself, for every other road user, but most importantly, I am a safe driver for the people who love me so much, especially my grandchildren, of which we have 6. And you must understand who you are. You are the most important person in the world to the people who love you so much. And you cannot do this to your family and your friends and your school, because no one will ever get over it. Ange and I and Jasmine were standing at home behind our car. We were going into Bendigo to do some shopping. I said, let's wait for Carmen. She might like to come in with us. We waited for a long time. Then we heard the sound of a car coming up Hawkins Lane. We looked up, expecting to see Carmen drive in our driveway. But what we saw instead was a police car driving in our driveway for the first time ever, and thank God we have never seen it since. We went over. A young policeman got out of the car crying. I said, "Can I help you?" He said, "There's been a car accident and it's Carmen and she's gone." I said, "Where's she gone to?" He said, "It's Carmen and she's gone." That's all he could say. He was so upset. I got really angry and I said, "Mate, what are you talking about? Where's Carmen gone to?" Just then the back door of the police car opened and Michelle stepped out. She had tears streaming down her face and she looked at us, and we will never ever forget what we heard and what we saw from Michelle. She said, "Dad, Carmen's dead." Just like that. And that is pretty much how your family will hear about what you have done to them on the roads if you do this. And you will break their hearts like Carmen broke ours. The next thing I know, we were all cuddling each other, including this magnificent young policeman. Everyone crying. And guys, what I want you all to do now, and I'm up in the corner, I want you all to look at me up here and replace me. It's no longer John Mart speaking to you. This is your dad speaking to your class, the class next year. It may even be your incredibly brave mum next year, telling them how they lost you in a car crash and what they had to do next, because no family can avoid this. We all went inside. The young policeman put the kettle on. We were sitting at the kitchen table crying, holding hands and saying prayers for Carmen. And then it dawned on me, and it'll dawn on your dad or your mum. I have to ring Katrina, our second eldest daughter. Katrina is 21 years old. She's working in Sydney. She's the assistant manager of the second largest Bets and Bet shoe store in Australia. And I have to ring Katrina and tell her about Carmen. I went to the phone. Thankfully, the manager answered the phone. I told him what had happened and asked him to stand by and support Katrina if he could. This is your dad or your mum making this phone call to your brother or sister. Can you do this to them? Carmen did this to us. It's possible. Katrina came to the phone, and before I could say anything, she said, "Dad, fancy you ringing me on a Saturday morning. I didn't even want to come to work today, Dad. This is sensational. You've made my day." I said, "Trina, I've got some really, really bad news to tell you. Trina, there's been a car accident. And Trina, it's Carmen. And Trina, Carmen is dead." What I heard on the other end of the phone may be similar to what your mum and dad will hear. I heard poor Katrina saying, "No, Dad. No, Dad. No, Dad. Not Carmen, Dad. No, Dad. No." Then she dropped the phone in the Bets and Bet shoe store, and I could hear poor Katrina screaming at the top of her voice, "Carmen, Carmen, Carmen, Carmen." And I couldn't even put my arms around her to support her. Can you do this to your family? We love Carmen so much, but that's what she did to us. I then rang Mum and Dad at Bungaree, Carmen's grandparents, my parents. Mum and Dad were both 69 years old, and they should never ever have had to receive a phone call like this. Mum answered the phone. I said, Mum, is Dad there? And Mum said, what's wrong, John? I said, I just need to talk to Dad. She said, John, you tell me what's wrong now. I think mums have this intuition about things. I said, Mum, there's been a car accident. And Mum, I'm really sorry, it's Carmen. And Mum, Carmen is dead. I heard my poor old mum scream out to Dad, Jack, 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 my God, Jack! Carmen's been killed in a car crash. How could Carmen make me do that to my mum and dad? How could you do this to your grandparents? Can I tell you something about grandparents? If you haven't seen or spoken to your grandparents for a while, can I recommend that you do? I have 6 grandchildren. And when you walk into your grandparents' lives, do you know what happens to them? Their heart does a backflip because you are their grandchild and you are magnificent. I then rang my brothers and sister. Brendan Carmen's dead, Peter Carmen's dead, Terry Carmen's dead, Gavin Carmen's dead, and my sister Carmel Carmen's dead. We then rang Angie's family. Huey Carmen's dead, Jim Carmen's dead, Frank Carmen's dead, Jacko Carmen's dead, and Mari, who lived up at Maroochydore, Carmen's dead. We went to the Teledex to make some more dead phone calls. Our Teledex was yellow. You might know what a Teledex is. We all have our phone numbers in our iPhones now. We had them beside our phone on the desk, and it was a yellow Teledex about that big. It had 168 names in it. It had a slider on top that went from A through to Z. And in there were all of my friends, Angie's friends, Michelle's, Katrina's, Jasmine's, and all of Carmen's friends' names and phone numbers were in that Teledex. And between Ange and I, we rang almost all of them. There were some that we didn't have to ring though, because the news of Carmen's death spread like wildfire through her friends, through our family, and I put my hand, after about 16 phone calls, I put it on the receiver to make the next call and the phone rang, and it frightened the living daylights out of me. I said, John speaking, and someone on the other end of the phone said, John, please tell me it's not true. And I couldn't. And guys, I beg all of you, please do not do this to the people you love. And it got worse. Because on the Monday when we thought we could see Carmen, and we had all our family and friends around us, people had caravans in our yard, people were sleeping on the floor to support us, looking after us, because we'd just lost the most important person in the world, Carmen. On the Monday I rang the funeral parlour and asked Barry if we could come in and see Carmen. He said, John, you can't bring your family in to see Carmen like this. And mate, I beg you, please don't come in and see Carmen like this. I said, what are you talking about? Of course we're coming in. He said, mate, you just can't look at Carmen like this. She was such a beautiful girl. Please remember her the way she was. I said, I'm coming in, Barry. John said, I'm urging you not to come in. But if you insist, we're going to have to bandage up more than 3/4 of Carmen's head and face. As a family, we made the choice not to go and see our beautiful Carmen. We didn't give her a kiss on the cheek and tell her how much we loved her. We couldn't say a prayer with her and say goodbye and that we forgive her. And you can't do this to the people who love you. You can't. This absolutely changed our lives. But this is a family's worst nightmare. There's Michelle, who was the third car on the scene after Carmen had hit that tree just 3 minutes earlier. There's Katrina, who was in Sydney. Jasmine, who's only 18 months older than Carmen. My brother's daughter Lisa. Angie's brother's girls Alison and Julie. That's me. There's Mum and Dad. Do you know what these brave girls are doing? They're carrying their sister and their cousin out of St. Teresa's Church in a coffin, and she's only 18 years and 3 months old. It's not fair. This is where I come to the best part of my presentation.
Good evening, and I'm Carmen Ma for the second edition of the 10 o'clock news. Okay, now, as you can see, we are in the Ma house at Christmas dinner. Now, yes, it is a great occasion for the whole family. Yes, now, as you can see, we have lollies and cake, and the pudding is just around the corner, which you can come and join us if you want. And that's all, and there'll be money and the pudding, you know, a great Christmas dinner. It's just been fabulous. The meaning of Christmas. Hey, no, what's the meaning of Christmas? Okay, now, if we come this way, excuse me, let's poop. Now, as you can see, this is the real meaning of Christmas. Now, that is the one special thing about Christmas. The love in the heart that comes out from the whole family is to give presents, as you can see.
She's pretty cool, isn't she? It's hard to believe that I'm looking at Carmen there, and she was just 16 years old. And we lost Carmen at 18, and she should now be 44 years old. I am so angry that our beautiful Carmen should have lost the opportunity to live this magnificent and wonderful life that we all have to live, and you have in front of you. What do we miss the most about Carmen? And this is exactly what your family will miss the most about you. We can't give Carmen a cuddle. A cuddle. A cuddle is the most amazing form of affection that there is. And I would give anything, I'd give anything to give Carmen just one more cuddle. But today, I thank your school and you guys, because I am making a recorded webinar about Carmen. So Carmen is in my life again for another hour, and I thank you for that. This is our incredible family. Each one of our girls have amazing husbands, and each one has 2 grandchildren each. We are so fortunate, but I'd like to point out that that's not right. I think one of my grandchildren may have got to my stomach here and enhanced it somehow on the computer. Get off there. I'll go over to my grandchildren. Our grandchildren, I should say. They are incredible. And they're all leaving us behind, as you can see. We have 4 grandsons and 2 granddaughters. And they are the lights of our life. Remember, make contact with your grandparents. Max and Ruben are both footballers, and I go to see them when they're playing football. I'll go in to see Max in the under-19s, and he'll be sitting there about to hear the coach give a talk, and he'll see me come in. He'll get up and from amongst all of his mates, and he'll walk over to me and give me a cuddle. And he says, "G'day, Pa." Ruben does exactly the same thing. Our grandkids always give us a cuddle no matter where we are. We understand the importance of a cuddle. I hope you now do as well. And here's a message from Carmen through me to all of you. And she's saying that the very second that you get home from school today, you go straight to your mum. Give your mum the biggest cuddle you have ever given her in your life. Tell your mum how much you love her and how much you appreciate her, and make a solemn promise to her that you will never do to her what Carmen has done to Ange, to her mum. When you see your dad, give your dad a monster cuddle. And just think of me for a tiny second, because I can't give Carmen a cuddle. Say, Dad, I don't do this often enough, and I want to tell you how much I love you. Dad, I appreciate everything, and I make this promise to you right now. I will never do to you what Carmen has done to her dad. Give your brothers and sisters massive cuddles. Say, we are family, and we must never do what Carmen has done to her family. We must look out for each other and always be together, and give each other cuddles every time you get the opportunity, because I can tell you from experience, you never know when you may have given the last cuddle to that person because of our dangerous and deadly roads. Why are there so many deaths and injuries on our roads? Guys, the roads don't care who you are. They can take anybody. You guys know about Andrew Symonds. It's not fair. It doesn't matter who the person is. The roads take no prisoners. And sometimes it's even worse to survive an accident where that person may end up in a hospital or an institution for the rest of their lives. But that really makes it hit home. Anybody, everybody is in danger on our roads. And this is why officers followed this is in Victoria. Officers followed the stolen car from Footscray through North Melbourne, Brunswick, Brunswick East, Fitzroy, Carlton North, and then onto Separation Street, Northcote, where the stolen car increased its speed to over 150 kilometres per hour. And it's driving through 60 kilometre zones, 60 kilometre an hour zones. The police air wing took up position and followed the vehicle through Preston, Coburg, Fawkner and Epping before the vehicle was disabled on Cooper Street, Epping, where the offenders attempted to flee the vehicle. The 2 males and 3 female teenagers, the youngest 14, the oldest 16, were apprehended at the scene. Thank God for our police. The parents of these young people should have been straight into the police station the next morning, on their hands and knees, thanking the police for saving their children's lives. The other result could have been that the police would have had to have driven to the family homes of these young people, knocked on the door and said, I'm really sorry, but your son, your daughter, has just lost their life in a car crash. That's the other result. I'm telling you, our police put their lives in danger to save lives of others. Please respect the police. And if you get booked for speeding or doing something silly, accept that and learn from it. That's the job of the police. There has always been speeding, and speeding should be so simple. When you see a 40 kilometre sign around a school and it's in school time, don't go over 40. Where you see 60 kilometres, don't go over 60. If it says 100, don't go over 100. It can't be any simpler than this. Guys, Leave early like I do, and you will never ever get booked for speeding. And you'll always have time for that power nap. Never ever touch your mobile phone in the car. The mobile phone is a deadly weapon in a car. Don't text on it, don't look at it, don't have anything to do with it. Put it in the glove box. If someone rings you and you haven't got hands free in the car, they'll ring back, or you'll be able to ring them when you get to your destination. But if you're really desperate to know who's just rung you, woohoo, pull over. Pull over, take your phone out and have a look if it's that important to you. But don't touch your phone in your car. People have been killed using the phone, and they have killed other people using the phone. Last year in Victoria, 1 in 482 people tested over 0.05. And all of you should understand that you're not allowed to drive over 0.05. And when you are on your P's, you must be 00. Never take a risk with alcohol. But here is the biggest killer on our roads, drugs. According to the latest statistics given to the Public Accounts and Estimates Committee, the most risky is ice and ecstasy, increasing the chance of a crash by up to 24 times. Now guys, I can tell you there are plenty of people who have a crash with nothing in their system, but they still can make a mistake. When you are impaired by alcohol or drugs, you have a far greater risk of having a crash, a far greater risk of taking your own life, your friend's life, or someone else's life on the roads. I urge everyone to get your licence so you can all look after yourself on the roads and look after your mates. But if you're a person who wants to go into the drug scene, do yourself and everyone else a favour. Never, ever, ever get your licence. Never. In Victoria, our road toll, the deaths on our roads, is out of control. It is such a shameful situation for Victoria. As at the 11th of October 2022, 198 people had already lost their lives on Victorian roads. At the same time last year it was 172. We're 26 deaths up, and I suspect, seeing that was the 11th, we would be over 200 now. I will be very surprised if that is not the case. And guys, we have to do something about it. Your life is in your hands on our deadly roads. This is what I see when I look at the road toll. I look at your age group. I look at the age group of the young people, because we lost Carmen when she was 18 years and 3 months. And the first 6 months of every driver's driving life is the most dangerous. That's when you have more accidents, more injuries and more deaths. And here are some statistics that should make you very wary of who you get in a car with or how you drive and use our potentially deadly roads. So far this year, as at the 11th of October, 18 to 20-year-olds. In 2021, 9 had died. 2022, 21 have died. That's 12 more deaths so far this year, and we're up 133%. 133%. 12 more families than the same time last year have buried a loved one. Whether it be a grandparent, a parent, or a child, or a grandchild. Guys, our roads are deadly, And you are the most important person in the world. And if you're using the roads, play safe, always. Carmen has a roadside memorial just outside of Bendigo where she hit the tree. There was a big yellow cross on that tree. There have always been flowers on that tree. And when they were widening the road, people kept pulling over and asking the workmen, what are you going to be doing with Carmen's tree? The council telephoned me. They said Carmen's tree is a place where so many people visit. And the driving instructors of Bendigo take their learner drivers on their very first trip out to Carmen's tree. And they sit there for 15 minutes and talk. And they talk about the enormity of the event that happened there. And how a young life was lost. And how her friends have never ever forgot. Because there was always flowers around Carmen's tree, fresh ones, plus Mentos, because Carmen loved her Mentos. The council asked me if they could put a memorial there, which they have, and it has a drive-in where people can pull up and spend time with Carmen. Guys, that's all well and good, but we would rather have Carmen in our lives, aged 44, with her own children. No doubt your family will have many photos of you, as we have of our family. Here were our girls growing up. We were all going out to a fancy dress this night. Check Carmen out. On her arm, it had I love Mum and Dad in texter. She was always the life of the family and the life of the party. She'd walk into a room and the room would light up. That's why she's still doing what she's doing through me today. Check Michelle out. She's wearing my St. Paul's Tech blazer and tie. But what about me? I'm wearing Michelle's netball skirt to the fancy dress. Yep. Who is responsible for road safety in Australia? I can tell you that you are responsible for your own road safety. So too is the 8-year-old in your family. So too is the 4-year-old. The Road Safety Commission will always tell us that we are responsible for our own road safety. Does anyone here think that everybody is capable of being a safe road user all the time? I don't. I think we need education. And I accept the responsibility for road safety because for the past 20 years I have been writing this book called Carmen's Legacy. I have 26 years of experience on road safety. And we launched the book on the 24th of February. We are so proud of the book, and Michelle, Katrina and Jasmine each wrote a chapter in the book, and they are magnificent chapters. Ange was unable to. Why? Because she watched me trying to write this book for 20 years, and she saw how much I cried. It's the toughest thing I have ever done, ever since we buried our beautiful Carmen. This was the day we launched it, on the 14th of February this year.
John Ma's life changed forever on November 18, 1995, when his 18-year-old daughter Carmen died.
Carmen went to sleep at the wheel and hit a tree and was killed at 8 minutes past 8 in the morning.
Carmen, who had stayed up until 4:30 talking with a friend, was on the way home after giving that friend a lift to work. John vividly recalls the police arriving at his door to tell him the news. Since then, he's dedicated his life to warning teenagers about the dangers of unsafe driving and sharing the impact the tragedy had on his family. After years of writing, John's turned his family's story into a book, believing it can help prevent similar stories.
The hardest thing I have ever done, apart from burying Carmen, has been to write this book.
John's ultimate goal is for the book to be included in the Australian Year 10 school curriculum. He says more needs to be done to educate learner drivers about the impact of their decisions.
Nothing has changed on our roads. road safety in Australia is not improving.
The Roads Minister says the state government's leaving no stone unturned to drive down the road toll. Sam Mills, Win News.
My goal is to bring Carmen's legacy into every school in Australia, and I'm currently working closely with the Victorian Education Commissioner, the Road Safety Commissioner and other MPs to try and get Carmen introduced into the education system at Year 10 level, when our students are all learning to drive. This is the time that they need to learn how important they are, that indeed they are the most important person in the world to the family who loves them so much, and that they have a responsibility when they sit behind the wheel of a car. They have a responsibility when they're crossing the road. Take those earphones out. Understand that you can get hit by a vehicle. They have a responsibility when they're getting in the car with someone else. It's all in Carmen's legacy. And this is just a one-term subject, because in one term, I believe Year 10s can have their lives changed dramatically, and they will be empowered to be the safest road users they can possibly be. And then schools can have speakers such as myself or the police or whoever in Year 11. And then Year 12, the next group of road safety educators come along. As I said, the book has been going tremendously well. I've been getting some amazing comments on Carmen's Legacy's Facebook page. This is one from Mark, and I just had to put this in because I thought it was hilarious. After a full box of tissues and half a dunny roll, I have just finished the best book I have ever read. Thank you, John Marr. Guys, I would love you to take the information about Carmen's Legacy home to your parents. Tell them about this book. Tell them how important it can be to your safety on the roads. It has 26 years of road safety experience in this book. Everything that I know, everything that I've learnt, everything that I've taught. And at just $20, I believe it's potentially a life-saving gift that you can give to someone, or you can purchase for your family. Where do you get it? At carmen.com.au. And guys, should you purchase Carmen's Legacy, it will come with a bookmark. This bookmark is handed out to every student when I give a talk. To every corporate event, every attendee receives one of Carmen's bookmarks. Some take more. It has Carmen on the top. Down the front it has fatigue, fatigue, fatigue. Yes, you can become fatigued even if you've only had your licence for 3 months like Carmen did. But on the back is the piece of gold. When I had my car crash, I was in intensive care fighting for my life. Carmen was just 15 years old when that happened. When she thought, as my other girls did, that they may have lost their dad in a car crash. These are the words that she wrote on the Get Well card that she gave to me. She said, "Dad, I love you. I love you more than anything. The feeling of darkness, the feeling of loneliness, the feeling of not having a father nearly broke my heart. The feeling of not seeing you was like a bomb going off inside of me. The thought, the pain that went through us all was like a nothing that swept our hearts, a nothing that dug deeper and deeper every minute, every second of the day. But then to hear your voice and to see your face, it gave me that love that every one of us thought we had lost. I love you, Dad. I love you more than anything. Love, Carmen." And unbelievably, just 2.5 really short years later, we lost our beautiful Carmen forever. But today, on behalf of Ange, Michelle, Katrina, Jasmine and Carmen, Carmen is our gift to all of you. Take her with you as you travel our potentially deadly roads. Stay safe always. Look out for your friends. Look out for your mates. Look out for your family. And always remember, you are the most important person in the world to the people who love you.